What's up, gamers? I've been gone for 2 weeks because I went on a road trip, but I'm back now and I have something really cool. Well, actually, two things. The first thing I want to show is that I made this thing, which is basically a polychoron viewer. It also views polyhedra and polyptera, but no higher or lower. So, the first thing you get is you're presented with this simple mesh here. It just says press escape to open menu and load mesh, and so you have all of these options here. The main ones you're ever gonna mess with are the fade start and fade end, which basically tells the program where to crop the model, which is very helpful because you don't want to see the back side of the model because then it gets messy. And then you can also turn that whole depth fade feature on and off. I think the viewer looks really pretty when you have it on because then you can only see the front half of the model and it's so much cleaner, especially with 4D polytopes. Then we have W fade stuff, which is basically just how far you can see into 4D. So you should probably leave all these at the default. Then there's also auto rotate, so like X, Y, and ZW. If I set those, it'll now just auto rotate. The ZW doesn't do anything because this is a 2D mesh and it's perpendicular to ZW. Then there's another button, subdivide edges, which whenever you load in a new mesh, you should probably press this 3 to 4 times. And then there's all of these. The important ones are that you can left click to rotate in 4D, and you can also zoom in and out with the scroll wheel and then hold down Shift to change the line thickness while you use the scroll wheel, and then Control changes the size of the rendered image. So you can use that to like basically make it larger or smaller without affecting perspective. Let's get this ugly thing out of here. Load model. So if I go here, I have this library. And let's just bring up something simple like the 6.6 Duoprism. Yeah, how about that? So here we can see our model. You can see how the back half is faded. And then I can rotate around in 4D. I can also hold down right click to narrow the 4D focus, and you can see how all the edges look kind of weird. So if I subdivide edges a couple times, now when I do that they look a lot smoother. And personally, I really like the look of this. So basically, if you just rotate with the mouse normally, you're rotating your view of the shape, but then if you hold down left click, basically what you're doing is you're taking the 3D image of the shape and you're rotating that. Which technically those two are interchangeable. You could think of either one as either one, but because of the orthographic projection, saying that when you hold down left click is when you're looking at the 3D image, and when you're not is when you're actually rotating in 4D, makes way more sense. So now that you've seen the renderer, I want to quickly show how it works. Alright, so here we have our two-dimensional creature, which will be representing you. Then we have something like a dodecahedron in the scene, which is obviously a mysterious hypershape. So when that's in the scene like this, the first thing we do is that we scale this down on the W-axis, which for this example is the X-axis. Yeah, just like that. And now Now that we have this scaled down on the w-axis, this flattened representation, this will just be viewed how you'd normally view a shape, aka with perspective projection and all that. But here's the thing. Can you tell which of these two pentagons is the front one? Well, you can't. So what I do is I color the vertices based on their W position. So in other words, everything gets flattened down to the plane you're on, but I use color to represent that axis. So yeah, that's basically how the renderer works. So here, back to this example, you can see there's orange and blue edges, which are like this whole shape has been crushed down to a 3D representation, like a 3D flat representation, just like this 2D representation of the dodecahedron. And then the orange and blue tells you what direction it was originally. So now you can clearly see this hexagon is actually regular because these sides are more orange and these sides are more blue. So that means that it actually looks more like that. And you can see how that's a perfectly regular hexagon. So yeah. Another thing you can do is you can hold down E and Q to shift through the shape like this. So that's kind of fun. I can also rotate while I do it, which looks kind of strange. I can also press R to reset it, and if I press R again, then it resets the view as well. So the 6/6 duoprism is all well and good. What about the prettiest polychoron, the Dodecacontachoron? Well, I have that right here, and honestly, I think it looks great in this renderer. So you can clearly see how every side of this shape is a dodecahedron, which you just don't get with the slicing method. Also, it looks like a shape that's hollow and has a surface, unlike projection renderers that use like a cloudy image where the center is the center of the image, which I've done stuff like that before, and it's pretty cool. But with this, it actually feels like a shape, like a physical object that just happens to have a 3D surface. I don't know, I just feel like it communicates that idea really well. So remember how I was saying that when you hold down left click and rotate, it's like rotating the 3D image you're looking at? Well, here you can see that if I go over here and you see how that center dodecahedron stays in the center, that's because we're looking dead center at this dodecahedron, and when I rotate the image, which is what I'm doing right now, all that stays the same. And then if I rotate the object, or like rotate my view, then everything else changes. And then I can also subdivide the edges a couple times and do this, which I think looks really cool. And then I can also scroll through the shape here, and that looks kind of funky. Whoa, look at that. Wow. Such a pretty shape. But I know what you want to see. You want to see the 5th dimension. Well, here you go. Here's a 5-dimensional cube. Okay, that looks a little bit square. Okay, I need to change these settings a bit. This is why it's so great to have all the settings easily accessible. So, okay, I know this looks like a 3D cube, and I know this looks like a tesseract, but it's actually a pentaract, because if I use WASD 1, 2, 3, 4, then I can rotate in 4 dimensions, or in 5 dimensions. And if I do this to show the axes here, it's nice because you can keep things, keep track of things. So if I press 1 and 2, it should change on the blue axis. And look at that, it does. So that's a 5D rotation, and this is just rendering a 4D slice, like my last video. I can also use A and D, then get some WS action, some 3-4, and look at that. We already got a crazy slice that looks really cool. I'm not going to spend too long here since I already made a video about this, and I want you to go and download this and play with it yourself. So one last thing I'll show before moving on to the other program I built is 3D. So I'm just quickly going to show the rhombocubooctahedron. So just to kind of show off more of that idea of how culling the back half looks really good. And then I can also zoom out and then scale the image back in to make things more orthographic, or I can zoom in and then scale the image down to make things more perspective. I think this looks good. Yeah, so look at that. You can, it's just like super clear and stuff. I think this is the best way to represent convex polytopes. So that's the main downside with this renderer, is that concave polytopes suffer a lot because they because it's like regiments or something. I don't remember if it's actually regiments. There's a bunch of terms for different things, but something like that. Basically, stellated polytopes can have the same edges as other polytopes, and so they look identical. Like how the great dodecahedron looks like an icosahedron if you just look at its wireframe. Oh yeah, and then you can also rotate the 3D polyhedra in 4D, of course, which I think looks pretty neat. Ooh, wait, I just remembered something cool. Check this out. This is the Utah Teapot in the Miratope library, and I think it looks pretty cool rendered like this. I can also rotate it in 4D, so if you've ever wondered what a Utah Teapot looks like in 4D, well, here you go. It looks about like this. Also, what's fun is that I can, here, if I reset my view, I can rotate perfectly 90 degrees into 4D so that it's nice and flat like this, and then hold down right click, and now you can see 2D slices of the Utah Teapot. Here, wait, let me turn down my W fade distance. Or I guess, yeah. So now, check it out. It's pretty cool. What was I gonna do? Oh yeah, so this renderer doesn't support 2D and 1D polytopes, but I do have something that does support 2D polytopes. This thing. So both of these will be in the description. So as you can see, I can rotate around by using the mouse to just drag up and down, and this is a triangle, and then I can go up to a square, and pentagon, hexagon, and then here's the fun part. I can use the left and right arrows to stellate it. So this is the compound of two triangles. If I press space, it'll toggle the 2D view. Here's a star. Yeah, so that's what a star looks like. I can also go up. This goes up arbitrarily high, there's no limit. Check it out, compound of 6 hexagons. Yeah, so both of these will be in the description for you to download. Thanks for watching.